X is cool. Just look at this animation. Even before appearing in the show, he was already at the top of the IRL voting. The question is, how come a character who seemingly has no weaknesses and defeats everyone without even breaking a sweat is so beloved by fans? Today, I will explain how Chibi Hero X managed to have an overpowered character who is likable and well written. And I will explain how X's powers work. First, let's examine why it is so hard to write overpowered characters. The answer is, they're boring. The easiest way to make a character likable and interesting is to make them struggle and overcome obstacles. It is interesting to see characters grow, and seeing them face strong opponents keeps the audience on the edge of their seat because it is unclear if the hero will win or not. With overpowered heroes, we get none of that. They are already the best and will obviously win every fight. Usually, after the overpowered character is introduced, the hype wears out and they become boring. So, the writers will either create enemies that are stronger than the overpowered character, which defeats the purpose of the character, because the overpowered character is no longer the strongest, will make them struggle or lose in fights that they should easily win, which betrays the audience and breaks immersion. I'm looking at you. Will cripple the characters, which has similar problems as introducing a strong enemy. Will sideline the character, which, boo! What's the point of the character if we don't get to see them? Or will just kill the character off, which you can't really do if the overpowered character is your main character. Obviously, the author can keep the overpowered character as is, and don't put any effort in trying to make them a well-written character. We can see that mostly in isekai. Like, most isekai MCs are trash characters, if we look at how they are written and developed. But they can be fun, and some people like them, and that's perfectly fine. But today, we are talking about objectively well-written overpowered characters that are also main characters. Honestly, the only well-written character that is consistently the strongest and has no difficulty in fights that I can think of, before Chibi Hero X obviously, is Saitama from One Punch Man. In some ways, he is similar to X, but in general, they are two very different characters. Okay, enough yapping about different shows, let's talk X, and why he is well written. I will start with the first trailer. I am doing this because most people first saw the trailer and then had to wait for the show, or watched a few episodes and then saw the trailer. Either way, for the majority of people, this trailer was their first introduction to X, and the show in general. We see X being late for work. Although being late, he stops to buy a drink. But the machine is broken, so he has to use a coin, which he drops and jumps after. From the very start, this scene humanizes X. He isn't shown as a big shot hero who had to stop an interview or whatever in order to stop a villain. He has the same struggles as an ordinary person. He's late, the machine isn't working, he's also clumsy, dropping the coin after trying to show off. We get his personality, and his personality, from these few seconds, is already likable. We then cut to Ahu, and get a glimpse of X's powers. The interesting part is that X just continues to do what he did after turning Phobia Clone into graffiti. This simple scene tells us that he isn't really all that heroic. He isn't Superman, he isn't All Might. He will help if someone is in need, but he has no interest in being a symbol of justice or anything like that. He has his own little problems to deal with. These few seconds and little scenes already tell us so much about X and give us a glimpse of how powerful he is. And that is before the actual fight even starts. During the fight, X doesn't put in any effort. He's smiling, moving fluently, yawning. It does look that he is having fun, toying with this actually quite scary enemy. We just met the dude, but we already know that he 100% will not lose this fight. Listen, while creating a character, the writing is obviously important, but that isn't the only thing. The animation is a big factor why people like X so much. X is obviously going to win. Why should we watch the fight if we know the outcome? Well, have you seen the fight? I have never before seen animation like this. This is something completely new. It gets your attention and doesn't let it go. You want to keep looking at it. You want to see how these powers can be used. You want to see more of it. And that means you want to see the character who uses those powers. Why aren't Saitama's fights boring? They're not boring because you get to see cool and wacky things in them, like Saitama getting sent to the moon and jumping back to Earth, or using his serious punch and other techniques, or just the opponents being flabbergasted by his powers. You expect to see cool, unique little details that keep the viewers engaged. With X, every single frame of the fight is like that. Like Queen's and Boa's fight was cool, but it was just a regular fight that you can see in other shows with other characters. X's fights, on the other hand, are a spectacle that only he can deliver. Your brain conflates X with the cool fights, and the end result is you absolutely loving X and wanting to see more of him. That would already be enough, but the trailer doesn't stop there. After the fight, after acting all cool and confident, X opens a can that had been shaken up and it explodes in his face. This once again humanizes him. He isn't just a cool, unbeatable superhero, he is also a klutz. And remember, this is only the trailer. After watching it, that's it. You are hooked. X is a likable character with unique, visually stunning powers. You want to see more of him. Then you watch the actual show, and you have to wait, because X isn't the only main character in the show. But the opening and ending don't let you forget about him. The first time we see him in the actual show, apart from some posters, is during Lucky Cyan's arc in episode 9. X throws a coin for Cyan and continues on his way. Again, a very small scene, but he is shown as a likable character. He is the first person to help Cyan. It is a small gesture, but it's there. And he doesn't act almighty or anything like that. He is in a hurry, probably trying to get home after work. He doesn't linger, but gives the coin and waves at Cyan without looking back at her. We are again shown that he isn't exactly heroic, but he will help if someone needs it. The next time we see X is in Queen's arc. He smiles, he looks friendly, he waves at Queen, and most importantly, he is completely relaxed facing Queen, who is the #1 contender to win the tournament. There is no question if he will win or not. And we don't get to see the actual fight. Queen is defeated in an instant. I understand why they did it, but I still wanted to see X fight, which only shows how good of a job that first trailer did. The first time we see X properly in the show isn't during a fight or anything like that. We see him drinking and fooling around with Smile. The person comes first, the hero later. In these 2 episodes, we also learn what motivates him to defy fate later. Here, he doesn't want to be a hero anymore. The commission doesn't want him competing in the tournament? That's fine, he will drop out, he doesn't want it anyways. His mood is also reflected in the way he fights. He doesn't play around with Dragon Boy. X simply turns Dragon Boy 2D in a 3D world and crumples him like paper and throws him in the river. It's when he sees Smile's body that his attitude changes. X understands what happened to Smile, why the other heroes came after him. And he says, "Nah, I won't back down anymore." The Ahu fight and the fights in the last episode come after Smile's death. And in those fights, X goes all out. He could have ended those fights in an instant, but he chose to flex his powers, showing them that they have absolutely no chance to defeat him. And the audience is hyped to see him do that. When you have a character that doesn't struggle in fights, then that character's personality and charisma have to do the heavy lifting, which is very hard to do. And X is one of the few characters that succeed in pulling it off. When I first saw the trailer, I was hesitant whether the authors will be able to handle a broken character like him. But they did, and it's amazing. The animation is a huge factor why people like X, but it's the little details that solidify it. X's little quirks, his friendship with Smile, how deeply Smile's death affects him, the fact that he fought while being drunk, he even burped, the way he takes Ahu along, the fact that he can be a klutz, and so on. It all adds up to a character that doesn't struggle or lose, but you still can't get enough of. Since X's powers are a big part why he is such a good character, I will now talk about them. How I see it, X's powers allow him to change the style of animation. It isn't just changing things from 2D to 3D, and vice versa, but changing the entire style. To understand what the difference is between simply changing dimensions and changing the style, let me ask you this. Would a 2D character understand that they are in a 2D world? Do all of these characters feel that they are 2D? No, they do not. Only someone from a 3D perspective would be able to tell it. We see this with X's powers. When he is in 2D, others from a 3D world see him on flat surfaces, like floors or walls. However, when we see things from his perspective, he moves around freely, just like any 2D character in a 2D show. He can also change the world into wacky animation styles, like this one or this one. In these styles, gravity and regular laws of physics simply don't exist. Everyone there has to obey the laws of that specific style. One of the most creative ways X has used his powers is in the fight against Dragon Boy. I already talked about it a bit, but it's cool, so I'm gonna talk about it again. When the fight starts, the world and everyone in it are 2D. Then X snaps and Dragon Boy seemingly freezes. We then see X reach out with his 3D hand and grab the still 2D Dragon Boy. And we see that the world and everyone in it are now 3D, and only Dragon Boy stayed as 2D. X then crumples him into a ball like paper and throws him in the river. That is so unique and cool and amazing. Another cool scene is in the last episode with the car. X is in 3D world and sees a billboard with a 2D car that looks like it's coming right at him. He snaps and turns the world into 2D. And as we already established, 2D objects in the 2D world act and move freely as if they were 3D. So, essentially, by turning the world to 2D, he made the 2D car real. And since the car is real in that animation style, he then could turn the world back to 3D and keep the car. If I am correct, then X's powers are fundamentally simple, but they are very hard to explain. Also, before we wrap things up, a fun little detail. From the way X phrased that sentence, it seems that he got his powers after giving the coin to Cyan.
I used to think my path as a hero began with that coin.
We even see him start glitching after that. Chronologically, that would make sense, because the tournament where X first appeared happens a year after Cyan becomes a hero, and before that, no one ever heard about X. Also, in the new music video, we see him struggling with his powers. If you go frame by frame, you can see him glitching and his hair turning white here. So, it is very interesting. Why did he get his powers there, and how did he learn to use them so well in such a short time? I cannot wait for season 2 and see more of this. Anyways, that's all I have for today. See you in the next video. Bye!